Hey, Lashpreneurs. Today, we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of running a business by way of processes. And what I've realized over the years of coaching, and especially in my higher level programs, even those that have salons with team members, I found from this last retreat we did with our mastermind that creating processes is not something that most business owners are familiar with. So I'm going to go through today explaining why processes are important, what are the main processes you have, and give you an example of how you actually create a process in your business. Chances are you already have processes in your business. You're just not being intentional about documenting them and then improving and optimizing them. So let's get into it. All right. So a process is a step-by-step way of getting a result. So your business is a series of processes. You have your marketing processes, you have your operations processes, you have your application process, you have your eye styling process, you have your customer support. There's a whole bunch of them. We'll list out kind of the main ones here in just a second. But what your business is a series of processes. And you, if you don't have a team, are the only one who runs those processes. But what your business is, the nuts and bolts of it, are a series of processes all put together to get to a result that somebody pays you for. So that's kind of like an oversimplified way of putting it, but that's exactly what it is. And so if you want your business to feel like a well-oiled machine or run like a well-oiled machine, or you ever want to not have to do everything in your business, you need to have these processes documented so that you can hand them off to somebody else, or you can look for areas of opportunity to make them more efficient. But if we just keep everything in our head and we're not really looking for the patterns or the steps that we do this, it's really hard to have any sort of consistent result happening. You can kind of think about it if, let's say you do lashes and you cannot get your eyelash extensions to stay longer than a few days and they keep popping off. It's likely because your process for applying them and the way that you're working with your adhesive or the way that you're taking care of your adhesive is not optimal. Therefore, it's not lasting and getting the results. So let's get into some of those top processes that you should, and you probably do already have in your business. You're just not aware that you have them because you just kind of haphazardly do it or do it without thinking. So first and foremost, I always look at the customer journey of how somebody gets into our business, goes through getting our services, checks out, leave, and gets followed up with, and then hopefully comes back. Like that's kind of, we can look at the customer journey from having no idea we exist all the way to they keep coming back and now they're a regular client. Each step has processes. So I like to break processes in a bigger category of three operational side of your business. You have your growth side, anything that is growing the business. Usually that entails marketing and sales. You have your operational side. So that is not the service side. That's the administrative side. That is the accounting side, like anything to operate the business. And then we have the fulfillment side, which is basically you're fulfilling on the thing that they're purchasing. So all of your services. So you can kind of maybe on a piece of paper, have one section for your growth, which is marketing and sales, have your operations, that's basically any administrative task, and then you have fulfillment, which is everything that you're fulfilling on to produce the sale. Okay, so we'll start there. That's the process of creating processes. All right, so then you want to look at, we'll start with the growth side, marketing and sales. So you should have some version of processes in order to let people know that you exist. That's what marketing is. So we teach to this inside of all of our programs, but basically the marketing funnel. So it goes from awareness level marketing, which is somebody has no idea you exist, to now all of a sudden they exist. So an example of that would be like a business card, right? If one of your current clients hands their friend a business card and that friend didn't know who the lash artist was, now all of a sudden they're aware that there's a business that does eyelash extensions and she saw her friend do it. So, or she saw her friend's lashes. Another one would be Google Ads. There's a bunch in that awareness level, but it's taking a stranger who has no idea you exist to now they're aware that you exist. We want them moving down the funnel. So thinking about each layer of the funnel, next would be the interest level. This is where relationship and trust is built. So social media, reviews, email marketing, we're constantly nurturing these people, at least weekly, if not daily, just keeping top of mind. People aren't always ready to buy right off the bat. So we want to make sure that we're kind of just on their radar for when they are ready, or maybe they need some more time for some social proof to make sure you're as good as they saw that you were through their friend's lashes or through a Google ad, right? And then the last step of that funnel is the desire level, which is your website. Your booking software is not your website. A website is there to contain all the information about your business, aside from what's in your head. So what we want is to have a process of marketing where we have each step of the funnel at a minimum mapped out that people go through the funnel. So we like to teach to the basics of a Google funnel, getting that set up in our programs, because that's generally where most service-based businesses are getting new clients. It's not the only way. It's just one very effective, very efficient, one very fairly easy to set up. So you work your funnel from actually the bottom up. So get your website good. If you're planning on like dominating on Google searches, you have to have a website. So website is where they end up. Right before that, we have Google reviews and Google My Business, which is kind of like the social media version of Google. And then above that, we have Google Ads. That creates the Google funnel. So that would be a process, is going in and setting up that flow for those clients and actively and consistently getting Google reviews, updating your Google My Business, reviewing your Google Ads. Even if you're just doing it twice a month, let's say, right, where you're going in and reviewing those things, that is a process. So I might put on my phone, check Google funnel, right? Go and review it. Maybe after at checkout, I am constantly asking for Google reviews, so it's always updated. That is a process. I'm going to add in a step in my checkout process to ask for the Google review. Okay. So marketing processes, this can be for like social media. What are your step-by-steps to creating a social media post? When you have that documented, I promise you, it makes it so much easier to do what's called batching content, which means that you're creating a bunch of content in a very short period of time because you're being efficient with it. You want to think about it as like an assembly line of content, right? So I might take 5 photos of clients and go through and edit them, taking maybe 5 to 7 minutes on each photo to edit them the way that I want them. And I'm going to edit all the photos at once. I'm not going to edit a photo, write a caption, schedule it, then go back to editing a photo, writing the caption and scheduling it, because it's taking different parts of your brain to do each one of those activities. And therefore there is a delay. It's called context switching, where your brain has to like shift gears and okay, now we're into writing and I got to get creative with my writing. And then I've got to go into like task driven, like scheduling stuff. And then I got to go back to the creative of editing the photos. Whereas if you edit all the photos at once, you're doing the same task, you're using the same parts of the brain over and over and over again, so you can be much more efficient with it. So my process would be, I'm going to edit 5 to 10 photos. I'm then going to write 5 to 10 captions at the same time for each one of those photos. Then I'm going to go schedule in those 5 to 10 posts. And now I'm done. Instead of 1 post a day, and then you get to like 3 p.m. the next day and you're like, shoot, I haven't posted. Now I got to like figure out what I'm going to do. And it's just kind of haphazard and it's not intentional, right? So you might even put it in your calendar now. I'm going to create content once a week and I'm going to batch do it. So I'm posting 5 times a week and maybe I'll create 3 new posts and repurpose 2 others. That would be a process, the step-by-steps of doing your marketing. Okay. So then let's get into kind of more of the operational side before we get into the fulfillment, which is probably where you have a lot of the processes. But your operational processes are really where most people don't really even know what to do with those, especially if you've never run a business before, you've never worked in a business before, or you're just completely clueless. This is where we spend a lot of time in our coaching programs educating you on what the business processes are, the operational processes, how to be more efficient with them, and interpreting what those processes, what the results are. So for example, your customer service, right? That would be an operational side of thing. Could be a little bit of fulfillment, but really how your client management, right? When clients are upset, when they don't get the results they want, what are the processes, right? So if a client is unhappy within 48 hours of their appointment, what is the process to follow up on? I can promise you, if you create processes for when clients are unhappy, it'll be so much easier and you'll have the emotion taken out of it when you just follow the process and you don't get bought into a really unhappy client. When you get a bad review, what are the steps to the review? How do you respond to it? You can actually document that out and write it out before it ever happens, so that all you have to do is just plug and play that process when it happens. Oh, there's a bad review. Copy and paste this response that's like, hey, please contact us. We'd love to make this up to you, blah, 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 blah. I don't know, put it through Chat GPT. And then you have a response and it takes you maybe a minute out of your day instead of, oh my God, I see the review and I'm stressing about it. My emotions are dysregulated. And Tara says, don't respond when your emotions are this high. So I got to wait till tomorrow, and tomorrow I'm still bothered by it. And now this is becoming a 3-day event. As opposed to, you already have the processes laid out. We don't need to get the emotion involved in it, or we can handle the emotion separately, but we already have a plan and the step-by-steps in place so that we don't have to deal with it. I will say one of the first processes, one of the first jobs I hired for in this business was getting out of my customer support inbox. Because every time we'd have a member cancel or a failed payment, it would just emotionally dysregulate me. I'd get a little bit like, oh, what? You kind of have that freak out moment. And the first thing I did was get myself out of the customer support inbox because I don't need to see that, right? I have a VA overseas who does it, and bless her heart, she doesn't have the same emotional response to those types of, issues as I do. So it definitely helps. But there was a process in place that I had to create that then I handed off to her, and she now runs that process. Okay. Another one that I think is probably the biggest question mark for people in the beauty industry is a cash flow and accounting process. Ooh, we can talk about money. Y'all want to make more money? Then you actually have to know how much money is coming in and how much money is going out. So there's a variety of different processes that could be a part of accounting, but some of that is bookkeeping, which means that you are categorizing transactions in a software, a bookkeeping software like QuickBooks is what we recommend. Where you're saying, okay, I have an Amazon transaction come through. I know I bought supplies, so that's going to go under supplies. My rent came out, so I know that goes under the rent category. So for me, the process of running payroll and for doing my bookkeeping is I do it twice a month when I run payroll. I go into the bank account. I have a whole process we map out in all of our programs of how to transfer money and do allocations and all that. But I go in, I pay myself, I run payroll, I categorize transactions, and I only do that twice a month. So my accounting is more or less always up to date. It takes me maybe 5 to 10 minutes at this point. It's not super involved. It's not super lengthy. For the vast majority of you doing under $200,000 a year, you don't have that many transactions that are different. Okay, you have pretty much the same transactions. You have money being deposited in the account, hopefully pretty regularly, right? And then you have the same money going out as far as, like the same vendors, Amazon, your rent, your supplier, your utilities, your phone bill. Usually those are pretty consistent every month. So you can set up rules and automations. So this is how we optimize a process. Rules and automation in your bookkeeping software where it will automatically categorize your landlord's transaction into the rent category. Therefore, when you go in to do your transactions or your categorizations, there's very few. They're like the miscellaneous one-off things, right? I now have a bookkeeper that runs all of our transactions. And what they do in part of their process is at the end of the month, they send me a spreadsheet with the transactions on there that they're not sure where they went, usually when I'm traveling, where they go, and I make a little note. Traveling for a retreat, traveling to a conference, compensation for, speaking at an event, right? So it's a very quick process. So accounting and bookkeeping, even if you're doing it yourself and you don't outsource that, the bookkeeping part doesn't have to take hours and hours and hours. Yet if you put it off all year and then you're trying to do it before tax time next year, it's going to take you days because you don't actually remember what you did last, April, on the 15th. And you're like, I don't know what that transaction is. Whereas if you're doing it consistently twice a month, you're paying yourself twice a month. You're categorizing transactions, you stay on top of it. And that way, if at any point you need to go pull reports and data to actually see what you did in a month or see what you've done in the quarter and where you want to grow your business, all of a sudden you already have your profit and loss report that can be pulled up and is pretty accurate. Okay. And you can also look for the areas that you still need to improve upon, right? Like, ooh, I actually don't know where that category should go. Maybe I should reach out to an accountant. Maybe I should Google it. And it takes you, I don't know, 2 minutes to Google it and figure it out and find the transaction category and off you go. All right. So then we move into the fulfillment. And this is probably the easiest place for you to start with your step-by-step processes and start to document them out. So that's what we're going to kind of give you as an example of how to create a process. So when a client, again, think of the customer journey. When a client has followed your marketing process, booked an appointment, got her reminders, knows the address, knows the parking, and she steps into your business, that's where fulfillment starts for me. Okay, the second she walks in the door. All right, you could have your reminder emails and all of that. Like once she books the appointment, that could start fulfillment too. But for me, it's like once they come in, let's start our fulfillment processes. So we can think about it. What is the step-by-step from the second she walks in the door? Okay, so we have probably a check-in / consultation process that we need to create and or document. Okay, so when she walks in, is she greeted? If you're in a separate room from where she walks in, maybe we need to have a little sign there that welcomes her and offers for her to take a beverage and have a seat. Or maybe the door's locked and we need to text her, hey, it's time to come in. I'm ready for you. And she walks in and we say hello. This is where your processes might split. You might have a new client check-in process and a current client check-in process. For me, with a new client, they needed to fill out paperwork and sign the liability release, right? And that would take her 5-ish minutes, right? For current clients, their check-in process may be hello. And then our consultation, which every current client should have a consultation, it's just a shortened one, is how are your lashes? Is there anything you want to switch up in this appointment or in this look? There's your consultation, right? But document that out. And I know it seems kind of like, well, duh, that's obvious, Tara, but I promise you, if you ever want to make your processes better, make your job more efficient, have a well-oiled machine, get in the process of documenting your processes. That way, someday, should you ever want to hire somebody else and or sell your business, when you sell your business, it's not just you're selling your clients. In fact, that's probably a little bit less valuable when you're a solo owner to sell your clients, because clients only want you, they don't want the business. But when you have processes documented out, that has value to it. So that's really what you're selling, is the processes of your business. If you want to open a franchise, what you're investing in the franchise is them giving you the processes to run the business model the way that they've set it up. Okay, so client comes in for consultation. You want to make sure you're following the step-by-steps. You're reading through the consultation, going over it with her, setting expectations, making sure she understands the liability release, making sure she understands the policies. That way, if everybody's on the same page before there's ever a problem, if a problem should ever come upon you, you have already communicated that, and you know that they understand it. I can promise you right now, nobody reads fine print when they're booking an appointment online. So just because you're talking too fast, just because your policies may be listed online or sent in a follow-up email or linked at the bottom of an email, nobody's reading that ish. Okay. So when you sit down and take the time to go over the policies with the client at the very first appointment, we're setting the expectations of here's what happens should you be unhappy, right? So if they're ever unhappy, they don't have to question it or like go find a policy or write you a bad review because they didn't know that there was a way for them to get it remedied. Okay, so that would be part of the process. Then what happens next? Do they need to go wash their lashes? Do they need to go to the bathroom? Do they need to turn off their phones? Do they need to walk back with you into the treatment room? Do they need to get, if you do Brazilians, are you in the room with them? Are you out of the room with them? Document what that process is, right? So as soon as we start to document all these processes, we can start to see, are there areas that we can improve upon? Right. So if we find that a lot of clients are coming in with junky lashes full of makeup because they come in on their lunch break, so they have a full face of makeup on, maybe we need to include either they go wash their lashes or we wash lashes as a part of the service, right? Rather than fighting, cakey makeup and not being able to have enough time to do a thorough cleanse, that would be an inefficient process if it's not getting the results. Okay, so once they're in the treatment room, now document your step-by-steps. For me with lashes, that was, they would get on the bed, I would do a comfort check, right? Are you comfortable? Do you want to bolster under your knee? How's your neck? That kind of stuff. Then it would be doing a cleanse. So cleansing both eyes. I wanted to make sure that their lashes were squeaky clean to my standards. I didn't care if they had makeup or not. We were going to get it super clean. That way they couldn't blame me for having dirty lashes that their lashes didn't stick to. Then it would be placing the iPads, then doing one last comfort check before I get started. Then it would be drawing on the iPads the style that I was going to do. I would refer what I did last time, see if there were any changes I need to make based on our consultation, and then adjust the styling as such. And then I would get the lashes, get them out on the tile, and then we would start the service. Then you can have a step-by-step process for your application. For me, it was I would do 6 extensions on one eye, 6 extensions on the other eye, and just go back and forth between the eyes for as much time as we had in the service. Then take another minute or two to let the lashes kind of dry out while I kind of cleaned everything up, and then we would do the reveal. So do you see where there's step-by-steps? Right? When you go to a lash training course or even in school, they're teaching you the step-by-steps. You have step-by-steps for facial massage. You have step-by-steps for doing waxing, right? That is a process. And again, if you can document it out, it becomes something that you can then optimize or you can hand off and delegate to somebody else should you ever hire, right? Then we do the checkout. We can do retail. We can do pre-booking. Then we can do follow-up to make sure that they're happy and satisfied with their services, or we can ask for reviews, all kinds of stuff, okay? So I wanted to give you kind of a big picture view, but really teach you what processes are, because that's what your business is a series of processes that gets to a result. And hopefully that result is a very profitable, very successful business and a very happy owner. All right, guys, until next time, have a good one.